Number 1. I was pretty much raised by my grandma, since my mum and dad were not exactly great at the parenting. My gran took great care of me. She couldn't afford a house in the better parts of the city, but she did everything for me. About the same time as I was done with my education and ready to start my own adult life, she started to show signs of Alzheimer's. I was devastated and refused to let her go to a nursing home. So instead, I moved back in with her, determined to care for her as she had cared for me all those years. I would leave her during my work hours, but be home for lunch, and in between the lady next door would just check in on her. Her main problem was that she forgot to eat and needed someone to tell her what to do and when to do it. She was still the sweetest old lady though. One day, I came home on my lunch break and heard my gran talk to someone in the kitchen. "Can't you find it, dear?" I rushed into the kitchen and saw a man going through her purse. When he heard me come in, he stopped and turned around, a wild look in his eyes. "Who the hell are you?" I growled, trying to sound intimidating, which is a hard thing to do when you're a petite woman who just encountered a possible burglar. "It's your cousin Danny, dear. He came for the money, you see," my gran explained, as cheerful as ever. "Gran, I don't have cousins. I don't know this man," I replied, not taking my eyes off him. Could he be on drugs? I couldn't see any weapon on him, and he was the lean, slim kind. Maybe he wouldn't risk fighting me. For all he knew, I could be a martial arts expert. "He came for the money, darling. He's buying us a new camper," Gran continued, and started to tell the story of how she once took me on a holiday in a camper when I was 6, and how we had the greatest time. "Get out, right now," I said as calmly as possible to the man, who was starting to look rather uncertain about how to deal with the situation. "Follow me out and I will give you the cash I got. But you and I are walking out of here right now." To my utter surprise, he agreed, with no further argument, and walked out in front of me. I slammed the door shut, and the moment he was over the threshold and returned to my gran, he was now happily recalling our trip to Disney World on my 10th birthday. I wasn't surprised to discover that all her maids were gone, and her wedding ring missing from its place on a hook in the bathroom. After this incident, I realised that I couldn't give my gran the care she needed, and deserved my own, and I got her a place in a nursing home close by. I visit very often, and the nurses there all love her. She really was a wonderful lady, even in her later stages. She sometimes talked about cousin Danny and his camper, and I played along. But personally, I prefer no further interaction with cousin Danny. Number 2. So I was walking like 15 blocks to the police station to report the robbery of my document. I was still very paranoid because I'd been mugged the week before, so I was really aware of my surroundings. I knew the neighbourhood pretty much by heart because my ex-boyfriend lived here. I start to get this tingly feeling when I see an old man sitting on the curb. Just there, he must have been 60 years old, so I felt kind of guilty to be judging him for what had happened to me on the days prior. I've always been really perceptive about this kind of thing, and I was getting this really bad vibe about this old man, but I didn't want to make him feel bad, and I felt secure because it was like 11 o'clock in the afternoon. So I kept on walking on that side of the street, instead of just crossing it, like I felt I had to do. When I'm maybe 5 meters away, he just hails for a cab, and that's when I grew more suspicious about him, because we were on the insides of a neighbourhood where cabs usually didn't come by so easily. I keep going with my head up, just trying to look as least scared as I could, while I was terrified. The cab stops and he opens the door, just when I'm getting really close to where he is standing. When I go right by him, he grabs my arm and starts to tell me to get in. I say no thank you and try to keep walking, but he has my arm grabbed really tight. The man driving the cab doesn't look surprised, so every red flag lights up in my head. I start screaming, knowing that I am in a really small neighbourhood where everybody knew everybody, and they really look out for each other. The man lets go of my arm and I start running. I get to a very busy intersection and I run into a female cop. She sees me very distressed, so she asks me if anything is wrong. I just explode crying because I feel so relieved. I was so scared. I sincerely felt that they could be following me. Next thing I know, I'm in a police car and I'm getting a ride to the police station. I tell them everything I remember. I'm pretty much in shock. I felt something wrong that whole day. I even asked my friends to join me because I didn't want to go alone. I even called my mum to ask her if she could drop me by the next day because I was really scared. They all just dismissed that and I just had to go. When everything calmed down, I was talking to a really young cop and he told me that this was happening a lot, like girls being forced into cabs and just disappearing. He recommended that I carry a knife with me at all times instead of mace. My ex-boyfriend very kindly went with me to the bus stop since I couldn't think of walking by myself without getting a panic attack. So yeah, that's that. Pretty close. Number 3. This happened during the 4th of July. I was down in Florida for the summer to visit my dad and the other few relatives I had down there. I was 15 at the time. My dad, brother, aunt, her 2 kids, and my grandma all went to my aunt's friends to watch the fireworks. My cousin Megan, who was 14, and my friend Naomi, who was 16, and I decided to not go. Instead, we went to the park down the road. They did fireworks out on the lake right there. There was food and dancing, and it just seemed more fun. Plus, we could hopefully find some cute boys to stand by. We left soon after my family left to go to my aunt's house. Now keep in mind, we were still on the younger side, so the people that think the way you dress depends on how males give you attention. We had on shorts that went to our knees and normal t-shirts. Most definitely not asking for any attention from an older guy. We headed over there, $20 to split between us. It was summer in Florida. We definitely needed a drink after walking for 20 minutes. So we found the closest food booth and ordered some sodas. We wanted to get everything we needed quick, so we could find a good spot to watch the fireworks. It was a good idea to use the restroom before sitting down. We walked to the back of the park to where they had the porta-potties. They were lined up against large, thick palm trees, all the way in the back of the park, behind the row of food trucks. Secluded, but there were people still around occasionally. I didn't feel unsafe, the least bit. I offered to hold our drinks, while Megan and Naomi went to use the restroom first. I took the straw of my drink in my mouth and looked around. My gaze focused on the dirt. A few seconds later, I felt a hand touch my shoulder from the back. I jumped and moved to the side to see a man in his later 50s grinning at me. As soon as he opened his mouth, I could tell he was drunk. The speech and the stench of alcohol on his breath. "You're very pretty." Thanks? I was extremely uncomfortable and started scooting away, trying to get away, but also not to be rude at the same time. That was when he reached out and grabbed my arm, pulling me towards him, his hand immediately going over my mouth. I tried screaming, but it was hard because of the size of his hand. It covered not only my mouth, but pushed my nose to the side. I dropped the drinks and he opened up the door to a vacant Porta-Potty, stepping inside. He tried pulling me in, but between him being drunk, me thrashing around, and the Porta-Potty being slightly raised off the ground, he started falling to the side. This caused him to release me so that he could catch his balance. I scrambled out of the Porta-Potty, and Megan and Naomi came out at the same time. They saw the fear that was plastered on my face, and heard the intoxicated yelling coming from the Porta-Potty. We immediately ran out into the large crowd of people, losing the man pretty quickly. Hysterically, I explained to them what happened, and we found a police officer who was walking around, patrolling the park. I gave him all the info I could, plus my number, and he assured me they would do what they could to find him. 2 years later, and I haven't heard anything about it. So, old man who tried pulling me into the Porta-Potty, let's not meet again. Number 4. So, I've used POF in the past. This one is by far the most weird I've ever gotten. I lived in an apartment with my friend Molly at the time. We lived on the 4th floor. Molly was on POF and constantly meeting people, and I was recently single mum, so I was kind of hesitant on meeting people with a young child. I eventually joined POF myself. Some guy named Tyler messaged me, and we started a conversation. Tyler and I talked about a lot of things. I said I had movies, and he asked if I could come by and hang out and watch one. I said okay, and asked that Molly stay home, and my neighbour Jessie and her kids come over for movie night. Mine was in bed, and we all hang out. I don't like meeting people by myself. I've heard too many horror stories. Tyler comes up to my apartment, and I'm making popcorn for us and the kids. We were watching Nightmare Before Christmas. Tyler only stayed for maybe 10 minutes, and barely had anything to say. All I could say was, yeah, this is my house, my friends. I'm a big talker, but not when I'm nervous, only because I say stupid stuff. So therefore, I don't talk at all. Molly and Jess pretty much make conversation instead. After that, I got texts from Tyler saying how pretty I was, how we should hang out again. I always text, yeah, sometime, and that was it. My friends Molly and Jessie said he was a big no-no. I kept the conversation going until I bumped into an old friend. We stopped texting for maybe 2 to 3 weeks. I'd hooked up with this old friend and forgot about Tyler. I started getting texts like, I can see that you're home. Want to hang out? I look out my balcony to see if there's a random car sitting around, but couldn't see anything. I started shutting my curtains and dressing in my bathroom. He then showed up at my door. Thank God I had a peephole. I pretended I wasn't home and just let my dog bark like crazy. He eventually left. I started getting other texts like, I want to touch you and make out with you like crazy. I bet you're a good kisser of all those rings. I have 2 lip rings and a tongue ring. I started ignoring his texts and deleting them. I eventually deleted my POF profile because he kept spamming me with insane messages, trying to woo me. It wasn't happening. I then got a message while I was playing a drinking card game with my roommate and friends. It said, I know you're ignoring my text. I can see you put your phone down when I text, and it says you've read my text. I then realised I had the read receipts activated on my iPhone, so I shut them off. I then also found out you could block a number too. I was getting up to 15 missed calls by him a day, voicemails and more texts. My Facebook is set up so you can't see anything unless you're my friend, so thank God for that feature. Fast forward a year later, Molly and I no longer live together. Molly messaged me on Facebook while I was at work, saying that someone named Tyler messaged her, asking if she was the Molly who lived with me. She answered them asking why, and this person said that they missed me and were wondering where I went, and asked me if I want to meet up. They also messaged her, asking if I still work at a Pacific taxi office. I never told him which one. There are at least 5 different ones in my city. I never told this person that information, nor were they able to get it. Where I work, we fake our names, unless it's OPP related. We also pretend we don't know about the person you're talking about. We're very private at my work. She said he keeps messaging her at least 10 to 15 times a day, asking about me, telling her that my son is a cutie and stuff like that. He's never met my son. I told her to just tell him I either moved out of the province or that I died. So she told him that I died in a tragic death. I think he got it though. I haven't heard anything since. I don't live there anymore, or in the same city, nor do I speak to those friends anymore. Tyler, please, let's not meet again. Number 5. This encounter happened when I was quite young. I was still in elementary school in either 1st or 2nd grade. Back then, after school, I'd wait for my mum outside the school. Basically, I'd walk out the double doors and turn left, walking a little bit off the sidewalk to this purple donation box that there was. I sat next to it, exhausted because at the time I had a cold. Then after a little while of waiting, the cliche white van pulls up in front of me. In the driver's seat was a white woman with dark curly hair. That's just about all I could see, because 1, it was so long ago, my memory is quite fuzzy, and 2, I wasn't close enough to see, nor did I want to get any closer. Though I knew it was a woman in that van, and I had a gut feeling I shouldn't get any closer. Now, I don't remember exactly what the woman said, because it was so long ago, but it was something along the lines of, "Your mum wanted me to pick you up." But I wasn't really convinced. If my mum were to have someone else she knew pick me up, I would have known the person beforehand. She kept persisting that I get in the vehicle so she can get me home, but I stood there, shaking my head no, because I just couldn't process any words. Then, as if on cue, my mum's car pulls up at the school's driveway and gets behind the woman's van. The woman then asked me, "Is that your mum's car?" To which I nodded, and she then pressed down on the gas pedal, speeding out of the school driveway. After seeing all this, my mum rolled down her window for me to get in the car, and I obeyed. A day or 2 after that happened, my mum and I went to the police station about the situation. I was able to tell them the colour of her skin and hair, but unfortunately, I, nor my mum, couldn't get down the licence plate of the van. So therefore, she was never really found. Thinking back on that now, seeing my mother's terrified face when I got into her car safely, really makes me think what would have happened if I instead went with the lady in the van. If I decided to go with that lady, I probably wouldn't be typing this up today. I'm now 17, and thankfully, I've never seen her or had any related experiences like that again. But despite that, lady in the van, let's not meet again. Otherwise, I will make sure I'll get your license plate number. Hey guys, if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. You can also leave a comment below. All feedback, good or otherwise, is always appreciated. If you have any creepy stories of your own, or have any topics that you would like me to cover, feel free to send them in via any of my social media. You can find all links to my social media in the description below. Until next time, guys, make sure you lock your doors, stay safe, and I'll see you next video.